Yeah, my phone doesn't work.
Oh, well, that would explain.
My office.
So if your
So I
phone's
also
not
put
working,
in- I
then
put in
technically
my-
you didn't sign it.
Well, I put it in my
Oh, that
requested
was
as
the,
well.
okay, yeah.
But
That was the
so
one,
I
no,
thought
that
it
was
like
the drainage
403, and I don't know
easement,
what's
not
going
the
on,
covenant.
so.
All right. So tomorrow you're free. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I
talking
have-
about.
Drainage, there was a,
Yeah,
there were two
I have 10
easements,
o'clock,
the one we pulled.
And then 1:30 in wall, so. at some
When you
point.
get, it's on 5 minute discussion, so whenever you
I'll
get
say
a
after
chance.
10 o'clock?
Yeah,
Well,
that's fine.
after I get back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But I just found it deleted, I didn't.
Don't worry about it, don't worry
Mate,
about
you
it.
should look and see, can you look
There
and
was
see if
one
there's a
that,
missed
yeah,
call?
there was one that.
Not, no, I called your office phone,
Oh, okay, I'll check.
yeah.
Well, so,
What? Don't
missed
look at
call?
your cell phone.
No, there's no missed call.
You can find on your office one, you can see who called.
What's that?
So did it go to voicemail?
It really was, I was having a lot of trouble
You
with
want
it.
going on.
I will check. I'm used to being ignored by Jenny, it's okay.
And again, I put in MIS request. Alright.
I don't. Great.
This is a meeting of the Township Committee, May 7, 2018. The notice requirement provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied. Notice of this meeting is properly given by transmission to the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Tribune Times by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on January 18, 2018. Committeeman Fiore.
Here.
Committeeman Heisel. Committeeman Perry.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Here.
Mayor Murray. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor our troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda, we have an introduction of proposed ordinance 2018-3220, an ordinance providing funding for various preliminary expenses in connection with the municipal complex for the Township of Middletown, appropriating $250,000 for such purpose.
Motion on that, Mike?
Just a motion.
Motion, please? Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held May 21st, 2018. Our next item on tonight's agenda for introduction, 2018-3221, an ordinance amending Chapter 540 Planning and Development Regulations to revise the floodplain ordinance.
Motion on 2018-3221. For introduction, please. Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held May 21st, 2018. Our next ordinance for introduction was 2018-322. An ordinance amending Chapter 465-107 of the Code of the Township of Middletown, designating intersections as stop intersections.
Motion on 2018-3222 for introduction, please.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held May 21st, 2018. Our next ordinance for introduction, we have 2018-3223, an ordinance amending Chapter 465-98 of the Code of the Township of Middletown, adding time limit parking restrictions along Thompson Avenue, Eola Avenue, Leonardo, and Schultz Drive in Middletown.
Motion on 2018-3223 for introduction, please. Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held May 21st, 2018. And we have a discussion item, which is a possible introduction for ordinance 2018-3224, an ordinance amending Chapter 465-96 of the Code of the Township of Middletown, adding parking restrictions along Latham Avenue.
Tony, can you comment on this, please?
Yeah, this is an issue with Latham Avenue near Navasink School. It has to do with trying to solve a parking problem near the school itself. This wasn't one we had discussed previously, but the police department kind of came up with this one at the last minute since we're doing all these others. So if you want to hold this for a further reading, have the police department in here on that, you certainly could. There's no real rush for it. But it's It's not, it's a parking issue, it impacts Navesink School.
So if we were to do this now, the earliest it gets introduced, I'm sorry, approved would be the 21st, then it probably takes a certain time.
It won't even affect
period.
this year's
So,
school year.
I mean, we can,
So I mean, since this was added and we didn't have a discussion with regard to it, can we hold this?
Yeah, I'm fine with that,
Have
yeah.
a PD discussion?
Yeah.
yeah, makes sense.
Sure. No, that's good.
At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 18-135 through 18-149, including a raffle application 18-104.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Second.
Freeman Fury.
Yes.
Freeman Perry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt consent agenda. Regular meeting items for the 21st of May would include certificate of appreciation, proclamations, approval of minutes, public hearing on proposed ordinances that were introduced tonight, and possible introduction, or I guess we'll hold off on that one until June,
Which one?
the 224.
The parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For discussion items tonight, we have purchasing agenda for the May 7, 2018. Then we have the AARP Community Challenge Fund Grant application.
Janet's here to tell us what that's about.
Sure. So for the AARP challenge, there's no match required, and it's up to $10,000. The goal for this challenge would be to do intergenerational programming between senior citizens and their grandchildren, since many people utilize their grandparents as caregivers for the children. We are looking at doing a passport type of programming. We're still finalizing all the workshops, but basically everyone will be invited to travel around the town, different times of the day, different times of the week, to do such things as cooking classes, Lego classes, yoga classes, but try to sample a little bit of everything. Again, there's no match, and the budget is up to $10,000.
There's no match requirement.
There's no match.
It's just a straight up
We
grant.
just need your, yeah, go ahead and make the application.
There's no physical requirements. They don't have to like jump hurdles or anything.
To be determined.
Great, thank you.
Next item, a letter, this is the bid for the grind and chip operations. Then we have the renewal of the shared service contract for animal control services with Homedale Township. And a resolution for fireworks displays for Beacon Hill Country Club, the Riverview Medical Center Foundation, the Navesink Country Club.
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Sure.
So all of these three, with the exception of Navesink's request for 5/27/2018, which is probably around Memorial Day, but all the three requests are on the same date, at the same time. And I saw the fire inspector's memo saying that he recommends approval, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing something that the fire department can be at three places. Two are very close to each other, by the way. So I don't know if there's an issue with Navesink and the Riverview Foundation, which look like they're across the street from each other. So I'm just asking the question, if you've asked this question.
We have 4 fire officials. They're all qualified to.
So we do have enough fire.
They would have to have someone cover each of those events.
Okay, so.
And there's a,
Actively, right? So-
actively, yeah, and there's a fee for those, but those are likely to be overtime expenses. That's just what happens this time of year with these types of events.
And the fire departments, I assume, under the approval were consulted, because they'll probably have to have manpower requests, especially in Navesink, I've seen they'll have 2 events at one time.
Yeah, they're aware.
Aware? Okay. Just double checking.
There'll be a lot of fireworks that are going off at night.
two right across the street from each other.
Then we'll have a proclamation for Relay for Life Day on June 9th, that'll be on the next agenda. And we have a resolution for Ideal Beach Phase 1 project closeout.
So that, we're just finally closing that project out. The last piece of that was the dune planting, which was done. I believe there still might be a few, some planting that has to get done still, but it's all stuff we have available to us.
Nothing that you need from us on that, right?
No, just, you know.
Thank you.
There should just also be on the next meeting agenda, 1 or 2 easement resolutions just for 2 approved subdivisions. Nothing of any significance really, those, just kind of housekeeping for their resolution compliance. And also a Title 39 ordinance for 1287 Highway 35, which is the Value City furniture site, which is being rebuilt.
The building's going to be demolished, it's going to be a CVS built, and then eventually the adjacent site will also get redeveloped for the friendly site.
Township Attorney comments.
Councilman Perry, please.
Just real quickly, yesterday, had a great honor, and I think 3 young men became Eagle Scouts yesterday. It was all over Middletown, so it was really great. 3 different troops, one a 13-year-old, which I thought was incredibly impressive for to become an Eagle Scout. I know we have a resident
Given
Eagle
the fact
Scout.
that you have up until 18 to achieve that.
I know, and I said to him, I said, what took you so long? And he said, Aberdeen was slow to give me the permits. So, so I'll just congratulate Brian Farrell, Aiden D'Antonio, and Jonathan Nickel. So I'll just congratulate them, and that's it from me, Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Perry. Councilman Fiore.
Thank you. Just one statement and one request I'll ask of the committee or the administration. So I've recently read, I believe it was Friday, where the governor and or legislature either introduced or passed legislation to create charitable foundations for property tax purposes, which to the best of my knowledge is not something that potentially is going to work. But I would ask that the township, because I'm sure residents have read the media that, you may be able to pay property taxes as a charitable contribution, which I don't find my property taxes quite charitable, but I would ask that the administrator and or mayor and or both send a letter to the IRS requesting a determination. So something that's a procedure called an IRS determination letter to find out or get a legal opinion from the Internal Revenue Service as to, is this legal to be done from the municipal's perspective? Because I would hate for this municipality to jump into that type of idea only to harm our residents with what could be taxable penalties and consequences for, audit purposes or however the IRS does their thing. So I would ask that we, before we take any action with this, what I think is a silly idea, but that's just my own personal perspective, but I think we should at least give it the merit to find out if it's legal before we put this township at a party risk to tax fraud potentially. So if you'll do that, and if any residents inquire as to if we are creating a charitable foundation to allow property tax payments, I think the answer should be that we are taking no action until we get an IRS determination. That's really the topic at hand that came to mind after last week, Deputy Mayor. So.
Thank you, Councilman Fiore. I'm going to reserve my comments this evening for the public meeting, so I have nothing at the moment.
Okay, we have public comments.
And just a reminder, please keep your comments to 5 minutes. We'll be happy to stay afterwards, and we just need your name and address to start, please, sir.
William Brunt, 47 Kings Highway, Middletown. I heard you talk about the end of the Ideal Beach project. And I'd just like to address Ideal Beach for just a second. Ideal Beach in the 70s, as you know, was dredged, and they put that big dune up there, and it's the only thing that kept the water out of the houses in East Keensburg or North Middletown. I own property down there, and I was frankly worried about it. I thought I was going to lose it, and luckily it held. But I want to tell you something that goes on down there every year is, back in probably the late 70s, somebody got the bright idea to pave 2 or 3 areas over the dunes with asphalt so that they could get an ambulance up there. And every year now, what happens is they scrape the sand out of there to get equipment up onto the beach, like the sand rake. It's not a good idea. The dunes are now, in some places, 10 feet higher than that, and that's where they belong, and that's how they were designed, so that the grass and the trees would increase the size of the dune, and every year, Public Works or the Parks Department or somebody comes and scrapes it open. I haven't looked this year to see if they did it this year, but I know they did it last year, and they've done it for years before that. That needs to stop. If they can't get the rake onto the beach by going down into where the stormwater pumping station is at the Keensburg border and drive it up, they shouldn't be cutting the dune. It doesn't need to be on the beach. That dune is there to keep the water out of our houses. So that's just something for your consideration that maybe you should talk to your department heads about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Leo?
Leo Christoffoli, River Plaza, Shady Oaks, Middletown. I have an article that you might be interested in getting copies of. I'll surrender this. Murphy signs federal tax wraparound. Is an experienced writer for the USA Today Network, North Jersey Record, Dustin Ricciopi. He's a better writer than what he wrote this in haste. But at any rate, I became a student of Mohammed and the development of the early years and of the Muslim faith, and tried to follow several books up to the current time. I found out within the first 4 caliphs, 1666, whatever, by the time they were finished after Muhammad, they went from a voluntary tithe. You voluntarily tithe yourself. They found out that they had to run politically a government, a human government. So then they came up with a government political tax. I think it was a Zucat or something like that. The same thing in the history of the Hebrews. They had a temple tax right up to the time of Christ, and they also had a secular tax from the Roman emperor that was an empire. So here we have a governor who subscribes to the Roman Catholic sense of social justice, and now he's got charitable taxing. If this goes through, if it's charitable taxing, I probably won't qualify because you have to have a lot of money. I probably can just take my tax deduction up front, $12,000. My wife can do the same. We're already benefiting $24,000 off our, whatever it was, $55,000 that we report. So I could care less about all of this, but if he wants to define taxes as charitable, that means voluntarily. And I'll volunteer not to pay my taxes. So at any rate, maybe Heidi could produce this. And I'm not finished.
It's a long time to get to the point, but it's a good point. I told this to the Board of Ed at the last meeting.
that they had it's hard to get some facts out of them, but at any rate, I discovered, I got verification that they hire at least 15 new security guards, as I read in the newspaper, basically to be in the foyer area of the 17 neighborhood schools or whatever we have in Middletown. So that was, they plugged in the budget, $455,000. And I said, well, if we're going to get to security, I hope the federal government and the state government's making available grant money, and I hope that Middletown Board of Ed will put in applications for it. That was a summary note. I just found in a document that I got off up at the library, Education Law Center, March 2014, Linking Standards to Resources, New Jersey School Funding Reform Act of 2008. On page 14, it does say, I didn't get a definite answer, but it looks like it's one, I feel like a lawyer here, Nelson. It says, page 15, aside from, let's just read this and it's the end of it. Aside from equalization aid, the SFRA, the School Funding Reform Act 208, has only a few categorical aids to a few categories for aids, money. Most notably, 1/3 special education costs, school security aid. So I'm going to stop before I get to the period. So it seems that under this particular act, the school board should certainly be researching this mightily to see if they can get some money, shake some money loose from both the state, as maybe the county, maybe the state, and certainly the federal government. And finally, you have a police department, and I think they expect in the Board of Ed and the school personnel, teachers and above, I guess they expect the local police to be looking around. Well, I read
Bad
this stuff.
expectation outside of just normal patrol, because I don't think there's any agreement to put our local police inside of the schools, nor is that, I think, on the table. But the question I think you should ask, and I'll ask Leo when I have my next meeting, is, with that budget that you mentioned, and I think the number was $452,000
Yes,
for
yeah.
security. The question is, is that
We're in
for-
disagreement by 3,000.
Okay,
Go ahead.
455. So, but the question I think that you should ask, that I'm going to ask is, was that 455 for what they call Class 3 officers, or Class 3, Class 3 specialists, which is where there would, if there would be any grant money, I think that's the potential spot. I think a Class 3, if Mr. Mercatante or Mr. Nelson, or someone could correct me if I'm wrong, a Class 3 is a retired police officer. Mr. Brunt may know.
It's a relatively recent.
Relatively recent retired, which, if you're going to use relatively recent retired police officers, then I think the expectation is that they would be armed police officers. Otherwise, you can just hire a security firm for probably less money.
And the
So
special,
you should. Sorry. Go ahead.
and the special threes are hired and under the purview of the chief of police here in the township, not the school.
So these are clarifying questions you may want to ask.
Yeah, if you hire a police officer to work in a school and he's unarmed, he or she is unarmed, they're not a special 3.
Correct.
So they're not even meeting the definition of it, so that's.
So you
just
should ask if
security.
they budgeted for special 3s or just school resource officers.
But of note, I believe there is some pending legislation with regard to school security funding funded outside of the tax levy cap. I don't know the progress of that. Maybe the committee on parity does, but so that may, although it's not grant dollars, it does permit the boards of education to spend dollars outside of the tax levy cap specific to school security.
I if they're gonna do it, I think they should be armed.
Say it again in
And if
here.
they're going to do it, you make that kind of spend, I think they should be armed.
You good, Leo?
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Leo. Anyone else this evening? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive. You know, a lot of discussion has come up with a few of my neighbors and stuff about line of sight when you approach intersections. And, you know, it seems like there's a lot of hazards out there due to the line of sight or lack of line of sight to see oncoming traffic. And I was wondering if the township could enforce, is there ordinance to enforce that? And
Mr. Keaty is here, and he is...
he's the enforcement officer?
Well, Mr. Keaty is our planning board and zoning board engineer, so can share specific information with regard to line of sight. And
Now, if there are bushes that are in the township right of way, don't we have some type of authority to go and remove them or make sure that they're
Well,
not
what
obstructing?
the township typically does, it's either code enforcement or police, depends on who, the specific situation, but we have the homeowner trim them back so that they don't block the line of sight at intersections. So if you have the locations, just email them to us. People do, and they just email them or call them in, and we'll, we obviously can't see every single intersection, so
Right.
when we see them, we definitely take care of it. When we get complaints about it, we'll take care of them. Code enforcement and police are on that all the time.
what's the distance, Rob? Do you know?
It depends on the category of the street. I think the minimum distance is 50 feet by 50 feet if they're
From the
both,
corner.
yeah, if they're both local roads, and as you get higher up in the hierarchy, it increases.
Okay, this one intersection in particular is on Harmony Avenue and White Street.
Harmony and White, okay.
It's down towards Jocks, maybe a couple blocks,
Yeah,
maybe west of Jocks.
okay, anyways.
Yeah, there's a big evergreen bush there, and the house that's on the corner is for sale, and I called the realtor and suggested that it would enhance the property if they cut this bush down.
No, it also increases the safety of the area.
And I mentioned that also because a lot of people are, putting their lives in jeopardy by, you gotta pull all the way out to the intersection in order to see if traffic's coming. And there's quite a few places like that, and like Tony said, so as I see them, I'll just keep sending them in.
No problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi,
Yes.
I'm Rachel Kanopka, and I'm here with Tricia Simon. We're both Middletown residents, and we just wanted to thank you all for the resolution you're discussing and passing tonight regarding requesting New Jersey Transit support of Gail Cookson's decision regarding JCP&L's MCRP. As you guys, I think, know, the BPU is still sitting on this for now. We actually got word last week that they're extending their deadline. It looks like now the earliest we'll hear is probably June. And obviously, we're cautiously optimistic that the BPU will deny this, but in the event that they don't, they still have to get through transit. So we really appreciate you staying with this and putting more pressure on transit. We've been doing the same as R.A.G.E, and a number of our elected officials have been doing the same, just so that transit knows this is not wanted by the people of Monmouth County. So thank you very much for your support regarding this and ongoing over the past 2 years. We really, really appreciate it.
Couldn't have done it without your support and your help, so
That's for sure.
thank you. And you're certainly a driving factor to achieve this result.
Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Once, twice? Motion to close public comment?
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Committeeman Floyd?
Yes.
Committeeman Perry?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino?
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.